Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hi, I'm John Mallison. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this, Thursday morning already? Oh my God, the week is flying by. Today, a special guest. We're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. World War II veterans and honor flight. They take off in a plane, a chartered flight, next week, headed for the nation's capital. 436 MeTV option 11. I know you'll want to call in on this one and turn down the sound on your television set. Back in a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Glad to have you along on this Thursday morning on the showroom floor at Ventura TV, and this is Connect with me on MeTV Fresno, live on Comcast channel 187 and of course on 43.6. And remember, turn down the sound if you want to call in on the program today. 436 MeTV option 11. Do not wade through the message, my friends. Today the topic is World War II veterans, and I would say that during the 40s, people look back at that time period and that era, and they would say that the World War II vets not only saved the country from a takeover by Japan and perhaps Germany, but they are and were the greatest generation of all time. I want to take you to a graphic and show these graphics about World War II veterans. This is how many people served during World War II. More than 16 million. Yes, you read that correctly. More than 16 million veterans served during World War II. More than 113 or I should say more than 405,000 died during the war. How many World War II vets are alive today? Well, roughly 1.4 million. Pretty staggering when you think about the numbers and look at them head on. This was from World War II. As we go to the videotape, keep in mind the Second World War lasted roughly 6 years or so, 1939 to 1945. It was, my friends, the deadliest conflict in history. More than 50 million people across the globe died during the war, which involved some 30 different countries. Some historical perspective, too, on this war. In the early 40s, millions of innocent civilians were killed in the Jewish Holocaust. And the U.S. dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan that essentially ended the war. Had our brave American soldiers not prevailed, many believe the U.S. would have been taken over by both Japan and Germany. At the time, U.S. soldiers were asked to serve their country at a young age, some barely 19 or even 20 years old, and they never complained, not even when the war was over and they returned to this country. In fact, these were the men and women who rebuilt our country when they came back from the war. Live in our studio right now is Al Perry. He is the president of the Central Valley Honor Flight. That's where World War II vets get a free trip back to D.C. to look at and visit the World War II Memorial. They take off next week from Fresno Airport, of course, in a chartered flight. They'll leave early in the morning and arrive in D.C. They'll be there a couple of days to look at the memorial. They have many veterans going on this trip. I know many of you veterans watch this show on a regular basis, so call in, talk to Al Perry, ask him a question, 436 MeTV. Option 11. Remember, don't wait through the message and turn down the sound on your TV set. Back in just a moment.
Remember me?
After practicing law, Raymond Berg fought crime.
You have the right to an attorney.
As a hard-boiled detective on wheels,
Ain't it the truth?
his name is Ironside.
Perhaps you wouldn't mind saying it again.
His name is Ironside.
All right, now you've said it.
Nothing slows him down.
I want to see this one firsthand.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
What are we waiting for?
A lot of folks died during World War II, more than 50 million. Some of the estimates are 50 to 80 million people across the globe for 6 years that died during the war. Of course, Americans, more than 405,000 lost their lives serving this country. And today, it's time to honor those veterans, even though it's not Veterans Day. It's fast approaching. Al Perry is here. You're the president of the Central Valley Honor Flight.
Thanks, John.
Explain what Honor Flight is, Al.
Well, Honor Flight is our way of saying thank you to World War II veterans. It's been working since 2005, after the World War II monument was finished in 2004. In those years, 100,000 veterans have been flown back to Washington. A great experience for them. And it's just 5 months ago, we thought we need to organize a network here in Fresno, because before that, they had to fly out of either Bakersfield or San Francisco. So we got organized about 5 months ago. We thought we'd start small with maybe 25 veterans, but sooner than later, it turned out to be 60 or 70. So now we had to charter a jet, and we'll be taking off next Tuesday morning at 7:30 to take 70 of these World War II veterans from the 5-county area here back to Washington, D.C.
Now, these veterans, many of them, they've never been back there, right, to see the memorial?
Yeah, the priority goes to World War II veterans. Eventually we'll get to Korean War veterans, but we like to focus on those who've never seen the World War II memorial, or Iwo Jima, or been to Arlington National Cemetery for the changing of the guard. And we're going to do all of those things.
Right, and even to check out some of the other sites, like the Lincoln Memorial, even the outside of the White House.
Yeah.
I know you can't go in, but, hey, in this day and age, what do you expect?
Yeah, we'll go to the Korean Memorial, we'll go
Obviously,
to the Vietnam Monument, we'll go to the Air Force Monument, which is at the Pentagon. Our 3 congressmen are going to meet us at the World War II Memorial and take us to lunch on Capitol
So that
Hill.
would be Jim Costa, Devin Nunes, and
Mr. Valadeo.
Okay, Valadeo.
Yep.
David Valadeo.
Yeah.
So they're going to meet you there.
They're going to meet us at the World War II Memorial. We'll have a little bit of a celebration, photos taken there. Apparently it's a very emotional experience for many of these veterans.
Well,
we've seen many tapes of it.
I lived in D.C. for a while, many years ago, for just over a year, and just going to the Vietnam Memorial at that time, and that was quite a number of years ago, and I was not a Vietnam vet, I'm not a veteran, but so emotional just to stand there in front of the wall and read some of those names. Do you think, I guess the question would be, would some of these veterans be able to handle it?
What we've learned is that there's a very mixed reaction. For some, it's just the camaraderie. It's talking to other veterans. They may have never talked about their experience before. Now they're doing it for the first time. But we also know that it's deeply emotional for some. I have a veteran we're taking who fought through the Pacific, fought on Saipan against the Japanese in what's called a banzai attack, fixed swords, bayonets.
Yeah.
He lost 100 comrades. And he wanted me to know how important it will be for him to go and touch the mural of that battle. So I expect a full range of emotions.
Yeah, and the Vietnam Memorial's right there. They'll probably visit that.
Yeah,
too.
they will, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many days will you be there?
Well, we get in there on Tuesday night. The next day we do the World War II Memorial and Congress and Korea and Vietnam and the Lincoln Memorial. Probably go to the Air Force Memorial. The next day, we get up early and go to Arlington National Cemetery to make the 9 a.m. changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown.
Yeah.
Back past Iwo Jima, if we haven't hit that, and then back to the airport to fly back here to a big welcome home celebration at the airport.
That is really an emotional thing, just to go to Arlington National Cemetery. I mean, to see all those grave sites. And I had a chance to go there, too, and visit the gravesite of JFK. 50 years in the making now. This year will be the 50th anniversary of his death. Basically his assassination.
Yeah.
So you're going back with them?
Yeah, I'm going as trip leader. Unfortunately, we've got a couple of experienced hub directors from Bakersfield going with us because there are a lot of logistics. You have to know your way around. We had to charter 3 buses, get 155 rooms at a Hilton. It's a big planning effort to make this work for these men.
Do you think it helps the veterans, or does it conjure up some bad memories, or both?
Well, I think it's both. A lot of the reaction we've heard about is the camaraderie, is sharing the stories, is relieving themselves of some of that description. But there are videotapes of men actually crying at the wall. It just brings back some horrific horrific and sad memories for many of them also.
And maybe for many of them, this is the first time that they're able to talk about what happened.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We've heard many stories from wives who've said, I'm glad you're taking my husband. He has never talked about this with me or the children or the grandchildren, but he is now beginning to talk about how he wants to meet his comrades and talk about this war experience that he had. And keep in mind, they went from island to island to island in the Pacific. In Europe, we have many going with us who went from North Africa. They took them around to the Normandy invasion, the Battle of the Bulge, the Ardennes Forest. Jerry Eckenrod, who is won the Distinguished Service Cross, a Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and was taken prisoner of war. I mean, imagine what they experienced. Just imagine it. And now they get to see it, I think, in a different light, feel good about their experience, and a nation says thank you to them.
Why is it that it took so long to build this memorial? Vietnam Memorial was first in the making, obviously. Why did this one come after the Vietnam Memorial?
I only have a theory. I think some of it's generational. The funds had to be donated. So it was people like Senator Dole who campaigned,
Bob Dole.
Yeah. World War II veteran, injured, and through the donations they finally got it approved. But it is a shame it wasn't until 2004.
Yeah, it's
it was finished.
amazing. All right, Al Perry is our guest. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. What's your question?
Yeah, I got a comment first. A friend of mine, Harold Samuelians, a technical sergeant from the 8th Air Force. He flew 27 missions over Europe, and when he got home to the U.S. at the conclusion of the war, never flew again. Yep. Didn't feel the need. He thought he'd pressed his luck at the 25 missions, and when he came back, he traveled only by car and by rail. That's my comment. My question to your guest is, this is a great thing that you got going on, and are you already planning next year for the guys that couldn't get included in this trip, and is this going to be an ongoing thing? Because if it is, I think it's highly commendable, and my hat goes off to you.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. That's a great question. Actually, we have 8 pilots and navigators and bombardiers going with us from World War II on this trip. Actually, we've opened up applications now for the March trip of Honor Flight. We have 40 veterans on that application already. So what we plan to do, and it's based on fundraising, it takes $100,000 to make one of these trips, is to go every 3 or 4 months until there are no more World War II veterans to fill a plane, and then we rotate in the Korean War veterans, the Vietnam veterans. So if you have an acquaintance, a friend, a family member, you should go to our website, cvhonorflight.org. That's like Central Valley Honorflight.org. Make out an application. The veteran, if you want to go as a guardian, you can make the application, and we need donations. $100,000 has to be raised every single trip.
Yeah, and think if just everybody gave a buck,
yeah.
$1.
We have a lot of small donors. They give $10, they give $25. ECU Credit Union's been in with a big time, over $25,000. Farney Ford, Johansson Transportation. So we're appealing to corporations also.
All right, and that website again is cvhonorflight.org, cvhonorflight.org. Go there and do your thing there on the internet. And we're going to be back with our program. Al Perry, he is the president of the Central Valley Honor Flight. They're leaving next week for D.C. Back with your phone calls, 436-MeTV, option 11, in just a moment.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
You know, I'm just fascinated by the numbers. We're talking about World War II veterans. I don't know if we have it queued up. Can we put those numbers, that full screen up again? Look at that. How many served in World War II? I know I showed this at the beginning of the show, but when you look at those numbers staring at you in the face, look at how many veterans served during World War II. That's more than 16 million. Think about that. 16 million, I think, is pretty close to the population of the 5 boroughs of New York City. How many killed? More than 405,000, as we all know, and alive today. Nationwide, this is how many are alive today, about 1.4 million or there. So, and really, Al, we don't know how many of these World War II vets were losing each and every day, right?
Well, the estimates run from 600 to 800 a day.
Nationwide.
Nationwide. I think the important factor is we know there are 5,000 World War II vets in the 5-county area. So I hope you're
Central Valley.
In the Central Valley, we serve 5 counties. I hope your viewers will, if they have a relative, someone, they'll reach out to them and say, Dad, Granddad, you need to apply.
Yeah, go.
Because the average age of our 70 veterans is about 90 or 91 years old. So the need is great, and the time is now for these communities to help us out, to donate and find the veterans and the guardians.
Yeah, I want to show the World War II memorial, but not just yet. I want to ask you a question. These veterans today, and I don't want to put down the generation of today, but I see this in my kids, and I love my kids dearly, but the World War II veterans went there, didn't ask questions, they put their lives on the line. More than 400,000 died. The ones who survived came back. They didn't complain. They didn't talk. They rebuilt the country. Today's generation is a generation of complainers to a certain extent. It's what can I get from out of my country instead of serving your country. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think you hear more about it. I mean, I was director at the VA Medical Center here for 13 years, and for those coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, we know they come back with mental trauma. A third of them come back and need treatment. So, and they're quite vocal about it. They get organized over that. So I think America knows, the media knows that people are seeking help. World War II, my impression was there may or may not have been a parade. They went down to the basement, boxed up their uniform, put it aside, and that was it.
And rebuilt the country.
That was it.
And
rebuilt
never
the country,
complained.
Used the GI Bill, raised a family,
bought a house,
did everything, and were silent about their war experience.
Yeah, today's generation, it's like I'm entitled. It's the entitlement age. We live in the entitlement age, and you look back at that generation, they didn't think they were entitled to anything except serving their country.
Yeah. To their credit, and to America's credit, the GI Bill in those days was terrific.
Right.
People got educations, they got the home loan, they got off to a good career start, and as you say, they built America. They built this community.
Thanks to the GI Bill, my father was able to purchase a home.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Without that, hey, who knows?
Yeah, I was in World War II. I was Vietnam era, but I went to grad school in the GI Bill, home loan. I mean, those are wonderful programs.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to roll the videotape on the World War II memorial, of course, in Washington, D.C., and there it is right there. It's just a beautiful memorial, and you can look at it right up there and comment about what we're looking at here, Al.
Yeah, that was completed in 2004. Senator Bob Dole and others raised the money. That's probably why it took so long to get it finished. It's a gorgeous, each state has its own a pillar. There's a star for every 500 who lost their lives there. So when we go in, we'll take a big picture in the front area with our congressmen. We'll have a flag honoring hero ceremony for some deceased veterans who couldn't make the trip, and be on our way.
Yeah, let's keep that video up there as we take a phone call here on Connect with Me. You're on with Al Perry. Good morning. What's your question?
Yes, I got a comment you made a minute ago regarding World War II veterans that never complained.
Yes.
Well, if you looked at the history of how minorities were treated after the war, where they had signs, no Mexicans or no dogs allowed in their restaurants, and they would discriminate after they came back. Well, the new generation, some are educated enough to say, wait a minute, this is wrong. We cannot do something to treat us like second-class citizens. So your comment was kind of a negative attitude. So you need to look at the history of after World War II, what happened to the vets of minorities, what people call minorities, and you see why a lot of people are complaining how society treats people of nationalities. Thank you for your comment, sir.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I was putting down any particular group. I was just saying as a whole, we feel like we're entitled to something in this country now, where back then in the 40s during the war, the World War II vets didn't feel they were entitled to anything, and they served their country. So I wasn't targeting any specific group. I think us as a whole, as Americans, feel we want to take something from our country instead of giving something back. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would agree, and again, part of this because the VA offers so much more. traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury program. So now veterans come back expecting it, demanding it, and will complain if they can't get those services that they're entitled
I wasn't
to.
specifically talking even about the Iraq veterans. I was just talking about our society as a whole. You know what I mean? But
I know what you mean, sure. Yeah.
But I know what you mean. If you come back with a leg that's blown off, you're entitled to something from the government.
And it's
they
well
should
publicized.
Yes, they should be compensated to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Especially you come back, you have an arm, a leg blown off, or whatever. I didn't mean to turn it into a negative, but it's so true because you look at that. I mean, did you read Tom Brokaw's book, Greatest Generation?
I absolutely did.
Yeah, I did. I read it twice.
Yes.
And some of the stories are incredible as to how much those veterans gave to their country. If it wasn't for them, we may not be here.
You know, among these 70 veterans are highly decorated combat veterans of the Pacific Theater, people who flew 10, 12, 25 missions over Europe. They went from battle to battle to battle in Europe. I mean, it reads like nominations, and they were, for Bronze Star, Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross. These are genuine heroes in my book.
Right.
Now they're older, they're frail, and you don't realize, but you should appreciate that at one point they were young, they were strong, they were brave. Many times they're probably scared to death, and we owe them a chance to show our appreciation, give our appreciation, and have them see their memorial.
Another call. Must be a good conversation here. You're on Connect with Me with Al Perry. Your question, please.
Yes, I wanted to make a statement. You commented about World War II veterans and why the monument took so long.
Yes, sir.
The Vietnam Memorial was built by the Veterans Collection. It was not built by the federal government.
Right.
And the other thing is, the World War II veterans are getting benefits because the Vietnam veterans making their statements when they came back.
Okay.
You were talking about the World War II veterans not talking about it.
Yeah.
Neither did the Vietnam veterans for years.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point the caller makes. I mean, but the same case is true with the World War II memorial. It's all private donations or corporate donations. And it's like flying these World War II guys back on honor flight. It's all donations.
Yeah.
It's the community reaching out and doing the right thing. But I know, having been Vietnam era, my colleagues are very aggressive about what they wanted, the money they would donate, and they wouldn't quit. And probably this caller's a Vietnam veteran. They wouldn't quit until they had their monument, which we'll go and see proudly.
And I want to clarify too, we're not comparing from one era to the other. People have dubbed this the greatest generation, the World War II vets. That's not putting down the Vietnam veterans, because many of them came back traumatized, didn't want to talk about anything. Iraq veterans, Afghanistan veterans, they come back, they have the same problems. And we have a volunteer army now. Back then, you got drafted into Vietnam or into World War II. So now we have some brave young men and women too, only it's a volunteer army. They volunteer for it. So anyway, we got to go. We got to take a time out here on Connect with Me. We appreciate your comments and your viewership. 436 MeTV option 11. Call in, weigh in. Your opinion is valued on this program. Back in just a moment.
1 Adam 12.
This is Adam 12. It stars Martin Milner as Officer Pete Malloy, Kent McCord as Officer Jim Reed.
1 Adam 12, roger.
This black and white patrol car has an overhead valve V8 engine. It develops 325 horsepower at 4,800 RPMs. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. It has a top speed of 120 miles an hour. The automobile has 2 shotgun racks, one attached to the bottom portion of the front seat, one in the vehicle trunk.
You want me to drive?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
We're here to honor the World War II veterans, but we're not ignoring any veteran of any kind. I want to mention that on this program because, you know, we do have another phone call. I'll pick up on that point. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you? And your question, please. Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not a Vietnam veteran. I'm a Korean veteran.
Okay.
And I see very little on the Korean War. There were many, many people that served it, and I see very little of it, and I'm very disappointed.
One thing I'd point out to your listener is that our priority right now is World War II. But as soon as we can, we'll start taking Korean War veterans back to see
And
their
Vietnam
memorial.
veterans.
And Vietnam veterans to
Okay.
see their memorial. Absolutely. We're just going to keep going and going and going as long as we've got the energy and can raise the funds, and there are veterans who want to go. I have applications right now from both Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans. We're just holding until we can get to them.
Right, and the fact of the matter is, and I know that a lot of our viewers here on MeTV Fresno are Vietnam veterans. My era, I come from the era of Vietnam, and so maybe some of those people feel offended at our program today that we're not talking about them. They served their country too in a war that was very, very unpopular. You know, the Vietnam veterans came back to this country, and many of them were spit on. They were not appreciated. The World War II vets, different story. So I can see, the veterans from Vietnam calling in and being a little
absolutely.
bit rankled. A little bit rankled.
Sure.
And we're not disrespecting them in any way.
Oh, not in any way. I mean, I proudly served, and we proudly served the VA locally here, and a big part of our population are Vietnam veterans.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, how many more trips for the World War II vets before
Yeah.
you start getting into the Vietnam era and the Korean War era?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. There are 5,000 veterans in the 5-county area.
Okay.
I suspect 2 or 3 more trips. Have to rent the plane at 70 or 75 veterans. I think probably a year from now we'll start easing into the Korean War veterans also in Vietnam. I just tend to think that simply and unfortunately, or fortunately, because the World War II veterans are older, and even though, for example, we had 75 listed, and on the waiting list, 1 died and 3 had cardiac problems and can't go on the trip.
I see.
That's the population we're dealing with.
Right, and many of these, you said the average age is like 90 now.
In our trip
90,
it's
92.
91.
91.
I mean, there's 70, their ages 87 to 96. Yep.
There's no chance you could take World War II and Vietnam veterans together. It would have to be separate. You've probably been asked that before. I don't know.
But here's the magic for you Korean War veterans or you Vietnam veterans. Apply to be a guardian on this trip. I have 8 of the guardians. They go along, they make a donation.
How do they do that? Go on the website?
They go on that same website.
Okay, cvhonorflight.org, cvhonorflight.org. Even though you're not calling in, I know many of you Vietnam veterans are watching right now because you watch all of these MeTV programs. Go ahead.
They would be perfect guardians. You stay with a World War II veteran, you stay in the same Hilton hotel.
Free of charge.
The guardians have to make a donation to help,
Okay.
but not the veterans. So we have, I think, as I said, 8 Vietnam veterans. Some are combat medics. They want to help their World War II brethren, and some are sons or daughters of World War II veterans who served in Vietnam. Many of them who are going with us.
Yeah, it's amazing. Whose idea was this to get this going in Fresno in the Central Valley? Because and what took so long? Why Bakersfield? Hey, we're not in Bakersfield. We're here.
That's an easy one. The inspiration was Paul Loeffler. I don't know if you know Paul from
I've
Boys
never
the
heard of him.
Bulldogs
No.
and Hometown Heroes, and he interviewed a World War II veteran, and I think the wife said, you ought to do honor flight, Mr. Loeffler. Well, like the light bulb went off, and pretty soon, it was 5 months ago, then Paul gathered some other people around from other agencies who put together a board, and here we are 5 months later. And because he said and we said, why do you have to fly out of Bakersfield or SFO? We can do it right, and the airport's been extremely cooperative. They can't wait to host us Tuesday.
Paul's a good friend of this show. He's been a guest on.
He's
talked
terrific.
about honor flight.
Oh, yeah.
It's very dear to his heart, and the program he does on KMJ honoring those veterans, it's amazing. He interviews them, and they have some incredible stories.
They do, and Ray Appleton's picked it up. He's going to go as a guardian also.
He is?
He's going to go as a guardian.
So I could go as a guardian.
You could go, absolutely.
What would it cost me? Just
because we're at the beginning of fundraising. I mean, we raised
Okay.
$150,000, but we had to ask a tax deductible donation of $1,000 from the guardians.
Okay.
That covers round trip airfare, 2 nights in the Hilton, all the meals and the tour buses. So
But
that's
if you're
what it
a
costs.
veteran and free,
Absolutely.
you can be a guardian and a veteran free of charge.
Well, if you're a veteran, all guardians have to make the tax deductible donation.
Even if you're a veteran?
Even if you're a veteran.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I want to make that distinction.
All right. Yeah. No, Paul is great. I listened to his program on KMJ, and it's very inspirational. And Rudy Giannone was a guest here.
Rudy's going.
Yeah, Rudy is going next week, right?
Waste gunner over Europe, shot down, prisoner of war. He can't wait to go.
Oh, my God.
He can't wait to go. I've got a guy who made his own business card just for the trip. He flew B-25 missions.
Rudy
it says
is
honor flight.
Rudy is an amazing guy.
He is.
92 years old, and I'll bet he could take me down with one punch right now.
And his son, Gary, who is my daughter's principal, is going as his guardian.
Al, sadly, we're out of time. I don't want to get cut off, but come back.
Thanks.
After the trip,
Thanks
come
for
back.
your support, John.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Al Perry, the president of the Central Valley Honor Flight. They leave next week, and they come back on Thursday at 5 o'clock at the airport. Go out there and greet them. We're back with another edition of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno tomorrow. We're talking about breast cancer. See you tomorrow.